You know what it's time for, everybody. All aboard for another CIRF report. This one for March 3rd, March 9th. I know we do this odd weeks from from Thursday to Wednesday. And we're on the Sunny rafting trip. Is the trip going to be rough or is it going to be smooth and pleasant? That's what we don't know, but we do know that it's time to get onto your raft. Very close to the surfboard, but this time just sort of lazily getting into the raft and seeing where life's going to take us. And let me explain. Here's our overlap. It's a very tight overlap, and what we come away with this is a very high congruency score and an overall influence where all these overlap, and I'm going to go through and explain what all these mean, but ultimately you get shades of ease and optimism. And what that probably points to is not only just the I-Ching that says great abundance, but this great abundance, which is represented by the blue circle right here, that is represented by the astrology's Sun and Jupiter, and also Mars and Venus. And that covers pretty much half of the astrology. If this purple circle is the astrology, then the blue circle, the great abundance, is covering most of that circle. The Dreambot, interestingly, brings in a little bit more of the astrology because it's not just the Sun and Jupiter that wants to kick back and enjoy. It's the sextile Uranus and Taurus. So it's on the move. Jupiter likes to do long distance travel and Uranus likes to change things. So it's sort of on the move, but it's also relaxing. So we've got this Taurus, the Uranus is in Taurus. We'll go all through this, but there's quite a bit of strong overlap with the astrology. That's my whole point. And I even put an extra circle for the astrology. The main energy for the astrology is the Sun, Jupiter, and Pisces. Okay. And the Sun and Jupiter are going to be a conjunct. They're going to be right together in Pisces, and it's going to feel both connected, that's the Pisces, but also positive, optimistic, and maybe wanting to move a little bit. Long distance travel is what Jupiter likes to do. And so that's all right here, packed into this little circle right here, direct overlap with these others. And so we get a strong sense of ease and optimism. But in terms of how that's going to feel and represent in your life, really probably depends on your personal astrology, your personal layout of energies. For some, it's going to be luck and fortune, monetary. For others, it's going to feel like really easy to get along with the people that you love. For others, it's going to be just synchronicities in general. Or for still others, maybe no change in monetary situations, but more of just the ability, strange ability to just sit back and relax. So that's the overall feeling. Personally, how you personally feel might be a little bit different, but there's the energies. And then later on in this broadcast, we're going to talk about triangulating for the solution. We're going to do it the same way, but with different technologies. So got to wait. These normally roughly last about 35 to 45 minutes. So towards the end, we're going to do this same thing for the solution and get you out the door knowing how to handle the maybe a little bit more pleasant energies this week than what we're used to. This broadcast is brought to you by our affiliate, LifeWave and Interzension. They combine together with the X39 patch. X39 elevates the copper peptides known to enhance stem cell activity and reset genes to a younger and healthier state. They support cellular repair, relief of minor aches and pains, wound healing, healthy inflammatory response, energy, and better sleep. And so if you want to activate your stem cells, staying young and vibrant and healing easier and sleeping better and having better daytime energy, all of which I have personally received those benefits, then in the show notes below, there's a link, the top link. It's it's www.lifewave.com/intervention. Link is below. I encourage you to go check that out. All right, let's start with our comments first when we get back next. And if you have not subscribed yet, I highly encourage you to do that. We do weekly CIRF reports that they have been very difficult the last year and a half, as everybody knows. And so getting a heads up is an important one, but also knowing how to solve that, knowing how to behave through those energies is also equally important. So those come at the end of the CIRF reports. All right, comments first. Big shout out to our friends over on Rumble, Mike Enigma, Not For Me To Say, and Tarif. And and a shout out to all those of you subscribing over on Rumble. It's a great backup to our platform here on YouTube. And then over on YouTube, I want a special shout out to Nicholas and Comade because they made comments last week on the Dreambot, and I love this. In fact, Nicholas had a tie score for our top comment, but got beat out by the tiebreaker, which I'll describe next. But Nicholas says on the Dreambot, somewhere between allegory of cave and complete mission, the last two words, in describing some helpful hints and correlations that he's made. And Comade says in this week's Dreambot list, words garage, village, house, and cave convey the collective conscious mind's desire to shelter from the storm. We can do this better together, right? And so I really appreciate you guys looking at the Dreambots and adding your interpretations as you see fit. I encourage you to do that for everyone. Not For Me To Say, shout out saying, I'm always praying for my CIRF family. It helps me to think we can all pick up on our positive energy from afar if we try. Please remember us in your struggles and try to connect, but if not, ask if we can help. The strings of our family cord have been struck and we resonate in a beautiful harmony from afar if we meditate on that energy. That's absolutely beautiful phrase that was meant for Robbie in her comment, which I'll talk about below, but very worthy of having us all recognize that we can put energies together and make it a stronger, more powerful, creative energy for the world, actually. And Robbie says in response, thank you indeed. We have a phenomenal tribe here. I am forever grateful for this connection here, and we really gained so much insight from you all. I couldn't agree more. And so shout out to all of you who are here, even those of you not commenting, but putting your mental and energies and emotional energies into positive transformation of this world. Then Melanie says, surfing these energies takes finesse and grounding. Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. But without knowledge, expertise, you cannot implement creativity. So you do need both. It's the yin and the yang. Praying for peace, praying for innocence of this debacle. Thank you, Chris and Angie, are appreciated. And thank you, Melanie. And then the winner for this week, Robbie says, and by the way, this it was tied with her and Nicholas, but Robbie had 4 replies, so it was a tiebreaker. The more bad there is, the more good is winning. Surely we all realize we have to go through the dark to get to the light. Great report as always, loaded with info to guide us through the tumultuous times. Ew. Yeah, totally agree. Are you guys ready for the Dreambot? Let's do that now. Quickly. Look at that first word. No surprise there. It says March, but it may not be necessarily just the time March or the calendar March. It could be war March. And it could be some other things too. But in correlation with the other words, the red arrows, it's about moving. It's about non-static, including March. March is not a statue. Ironically, the second word is not moving. So you've got moving and then not moving, but I didn't have any supporting words down here for the not moving, for the statue. Couldn't figure out how to correlate those. But the blue arrows, look at that. It's about going back to just relaxing and water and being curious as a child, and eating could be pleasant, and smoking, people smoke for pleasure or whatever, but there could be, I saw this sort of mild war theme, if you put March and smoke, this could be bad things, but this was much a different correlation. And it does depend on how you read some of these words, of course. Yeah, but I'm putting them together in a relaxing, kicking back and enjoy. And you're going to see a direct overlap in the astrology when we talk about that. All right. So that's very pleasant. Overall, it's moving. Things are moving. Collective is moving forward now. So it's sort of stalled in all those conflicts and squares in the astrology for so long. And now we can sort of just kick back, take a break from fighting everything, and just enjoy. It's sort of like the time when the worm stops moving forward and lets the back catch up. We're in that kind of a universal arrangement. All right. So let's get to the astrology. And there are some interesting things happening this month. One I'm going to talk about next time is right in the mid part of the month. Things are going to turn, as things sort of turn a little bit more relaxing. Look at all that relaxing energy here. Yeah, you still got the last of the square. Well, where is that? Right here. This is the last of the Saturn square Uranus that we've been talking about for so freaking long. It's ending at the end of this week, meaning that they are getting 8 degrees apart from 8 degrees orb away from each other in terms of square. That ends. So that conflict between freedom and compliance are over. And it's just it's no coincidence, right? That it looks like everyone's dropping mandates and everything. That appears to be this alignment, or better said, that this energy has best been displayed or represented by the mandates and the resistance against the mandates all along in this whole COVID debacle. All right. But most of the places are just suddenly ending things, and it correlates really well with what's happening out in the real world in the square here with Uranus and Saturn. What really, really interesting is Venus and Mars this week. Remember, Mars was, I can't remember which one was out front. Anyway, whenever one is just barely out front, the other one is going to actually speed up and catch up with it and go exact on the 6th. And as they go hand in hand, like perfectly hand in hand, they're already close now, but they'll be exact again on the 6th, and right as they enter Aquarius. So it's like, that's a really special alignment. We'll talk about that. And then we have Mercury. It's going to end up going into Pisces, but that's mainly for next week. That's not really this week. And then midweek, you have these reconflicted energies. So now look, we handed off to, so even though Saturn was in Aquarius heading, or getting out of this square with Uranus, now it's handing off to Venus and Mars as they progress into a square. But you can see how short-lived those are going to be. Thankfully, these are much faster moving planets. And so those squares, although a little bit conflicted, especially as the sun goes into Aries and things get a little bit less together, like Pisces, less spiritually connected and a little bit more I don't want to paint Aries as a bad guy. It's not, but a little bit more selfish. It's more about my own identity, my egocentrism is coming into play into the middle and in this conflict. The other thing Aries is the warrior. So we've got a warring sort of energy more towards the middle slash last third or last third quarter of March. All right, enough of that. Thursday the 3rd. Now, there's not a lot of difference from the last CIRF report, but just to remind you, what we've got is the sun is going to head into a perfect conjunction with Jupiter, and this is in Pisces. So right now, today, Thursday the 3rd, at around noon Central Time, we have a stellium with the moon. So we've got 4 planets in Pisces together, and 2 of those are in a conjunction and have been in a conjunction for at least a week. And then we have and so this is where a lot of the pleasant comes from. The sun is feeling interconnected. So we've got that tribal / community meme or theme that's going to come out of this, but not the primary. The primary is going to just be this easy, optimistic, positive outcome. Things are relaxing. What else does Jupiter like to do? It likes to travel. And so you're going to see that we already saw that in the Dreambot, wanting to move and then experience the finer things. That is the sextile over to Uranus, which is in Taurus. And Taurus loves experiences and loves the finer things. And so you've got change of the way that we experience the world or even see things. As you know, Uranus doesn't have a lot of strong suits in Taurus because it's so bullheaded, and Uranus wants to just break free and be adaptable and change everything. Taurus doesn't want to necessarily change everything, just wants to experience things the way they are, but the finer things. And so that's correlated in a sextile with positive Jupiter. So we got that whole thing going on, divine, expansive change for ego and your place in this world. All of that packed into this, it's real quiet, subtle, positive energy of a sextile between the two. So that's where a lot of this energy is coming this week. Then we have Mercury and Saturn. This produced, so we got Mercury that's exalted in Aquarius, so normally pretty strong, but you've got coming over with a conjunction of Saturn, and that makes things a little bit harder for Mercury. And so thoughts become challenging, or you may be cognitively challenged, but that's going to end. Mercury goes pretty quick here, and its last few degrees of Aquarius is going to be just pure Mercury and exalted Mercury. So real sharp thoughts. Everything's real logical. It's the strength of Mercury is indicated, and it's going to be in these last few degrees of Aquarius that are separated from Saturn. So there's not going to be much hardship for the mind towards the end of the week. And then one of those really, really interesting alignments is, and they're not going to be in the same elevation in the sky, but you're going to be able to obviously see Venus and Mars, but they're going to be separated vertically as you look. But they're going to be they're together in terms of azimuth, and as they go along, the other one, I got my hands backwards. As they go along, they're going to actually connect again. So Mars is out front, but Venus is going to speed up again because Mars had been going relatively faster relative to how we view it. And then Venus is going to speed up and connect with Mars perfectly in a perfect conjunction right as they step over the threshold into Aquarius. Actually, I'm pointing over here, but that's going to be fantastic. Right now, these together representing real power, yin and yang, male and female. It's the archetypes of yin and yang together. There are other yin and yangs in the sky, but this is one of them. It's mainly the male and female, the warrior and the peacemonger. And they're over Pluto. So how they related to each other is changing and transforming. Almost felt like you couldn't understand the other, or might have been death of a relationship of some kind, but it's only the beginning. That's the all. So we always feel when we feel Pluto, it's imminent. It's the end. And once you realize in the future, when you recognize that feeling coming on, you can remind yourself, no, this is also the beginning. That's how the universe works. The ends are the beginnings, and so on and so forth. We have the last of the Saturn square Uranus, because you can see 19 versus 11. So we are real close, and those are really slow moving planets. So it's going to take all week to get just a few more minutes and get out of that 8-degree orb. Whew. Was that enough for you? That's a review, and most of these things are going to stay true all week that I just mentioned. Friday the 4th, we just have the sun getting closer to positive Jupiter. And looking at the elevation, they are together in the same piece of sky. So we're almost looking at a cazimi of Jupiter. And when we get into 17 minutes, which is coming up at the end of Friday, and then into Saturday, this is where we're going to have a hyper positive Jupiter. And that's why this becomes the main energy for the entire week. And in terms of our triangulation process and converting it over sidereal, this is what we're going to use. Saturday, the 5th, Jupiter and the sun are perfect alignment, 14 degrees, 58 minutes of Pisces, and technically just inside of a conjunction with Neptune. So it brings a little bit of dreaminess and a connectivity in Pisces with the optimism. So it's like a extra little, I mean, it's already sort of communal in a way, because Pisces is the togetherness. It's the unseen thread through all of us, the interconnectivity that they have such a gift with, which also can be seen as sort of a curse too, depending on how you react to it. But the interconnectivity is peaceful. It's togetherness. It's compassion. It's empathy. It's all those things with Jupiter, which is wise, higher level, transcendent, and can be travel oriented too. But it's ease, and its alignment is a sextile over to Uranus and change and experiencing change of the finer things. Energy that encourages us to recall, sit back, indulge in. Relax. Let me start over. Energy that encourages us to relax, sit back, indulge in the finer things, see new places, pamper yourself, or surprise pampering, because you got Uranus is the surprise, and pampering is also in Taurus, so, experiencing the finer things. So the surprise of pampering might show up because it's an opportunity. This very alignment sextile is very much a Uranus in Taurus sort of an alignment, because represents an opportunity. Anytime you change, anytime there's perceived change or change coming or predicted, it's not just your body has to assimilate, which can feel anxious, but it's also be on the lookout for an opportunity. You see the market collapsing. What do we normally do? So, oh no, everyone's all scared. But no, there's no just pure loss of wealth. You just have to be put in the right position to make money in that situation. Someone's going to make money on that downside. So anyway, I don't want to make this all about money, but it's just an example of how not everything bad is bad and ugly and suffering. There can be opportunities there too. Any change can be just as much opportunity as, stress and adaptation and anxiety. or this feeling of lack of control. So for some of you, this could feel like a lack of control, unfortunately, but it's going to be hard with Jupiter there with the sun. The sun feels relaxed with Jupiter. And Jupiter, at this moment at least, in Saturday, most of Saturday, is going to feel extremely strong here because it's that Cazimi, Jupiter Cazimi. And then we get into Sunday. This is when, look at this, Venus and Mars go exact together. So they're at 0 degrees, 2 minutes of Aquarius. They have just entered into Aquarius and they are perfectly aligned. It's a beautiful thing. And so now this togetherness, whatever those represented for you before, so male, female, they're just still inside of a conjunction of Pluto. So we still have that completing a hero's journey for these two, but together, hand in hand. Now their energy shifts instantly with Aquarian. And so Aquarius has a collective concern. They're very friendly. So this still has that tribal thing that we talked about with the Jupiter Sun and Pisces. So that's correlated with it matters. It matters. It's the group matters. And we got to learn how to be together. We're better together, that kind of thing. But it brings about, everything Aquarian. So an ability to observe, independence, knowledge is in there, but, deep, extra, transpersonal knowledge, deeper understanding of things, logic is coming up with this Venus and Mars energy. And it unfortunately is squared with the emotions. So if there is any conflict with this transition here on Sunday for you, you could probably blame it more on a square over to the moon rather than just the Venus and Mars going into Aquarius. So I think that's going to be really beneficial. Monday, the 7th, I wanted to highlight how close we are. Saturn at 34 minutes and Uranus at 47 minutes. So we're only talking about a few more minutes of progression before this square goes away. Tuesday, the 8th, the ego now is sandwiched between Neptune and Jupiter. So there's 3 degrees away from Jupiter and 4 degrees away from Neptune. So right now, ego is able to envision expansive and wise outcomes. It's weighted over to Jupiter, so a little bit more just happy-go-lucky rather than envisioning and creative. But it's all combined together, and the ego can feel very. It can feel confused but optimistic at the same time. It can feel tricked or escapism and higher level living at the same time. You can run all these archetypes in lots of different ways. It's not a perfect dichotomy like Venus and Mars together, but it's a very interesting and pleasant and relaxing combination. Mercury now, as you can see, is out of the Saturn influence. They're greater than 8 degrees now. So unfettered mind, sharp as a tack, no challenges for cognitive processing. And then Wednesday, the 9th, ego now is closer to fantasy than wisdom because it's closer to Neptune. So closer to fantasy than wisdom, but still influenced by both. That rounds out our week. Let's get rid of the highlighter and talk about the I-Ching. We did have some change lines, but our first influence says 55, great abundance, as I was rolling the coins or tossing the coins and getting our I-Ching reading. or figuring out what it actually meant, this great abundance. That's sort of confusing. But then once you see Jupiter and the sun together and, technically all the other alignments we talked about, or most of them, it agrees with the great abundance. It's a week of abundance comes into full flower when a group is unified. There's that contingent on togetherness, right? So we got Pisces and Aquarius as the lens through which we see these archetypes. So the group is unified in the power of its leadership as its peak. This is like the sun at midday, a high noon of clarity, insight, and progress. That's very Aquarian, by the way. Clarity and insight. Whether this refers to a national cycle, a business boon, or a period of personal abundance, peak periods can be brief, so it is good to bale your hay while the sun is shining. So, for example, I don't give financial advice. That's not one of my specialties, although I do have an MBA. Never have used it. It was a complete waste of my time, but I don't consider anything that I've done in the past a waste. It's just not utilized. But nonetheless, this isn't economic advice, but this is an example of how you could read this and say, this might be a time where the stock market goes up and this might be a good time to sell. I'm not saying that is, but it could be inferred by that if you so choose. But I would get some advice from other people before you pull the trigger. Line 5 says, the situation is like that of a wealthy man who hires the best investment advisors and then listens to them. Well, that's odd that I just said that as the example. But in other words, the wise get wiser. It's about seek help. Don't try to do this alone. The contingency of abundance is togetherness as much as you can, right? Line 6 says arrogance in the handling of power tends to bring the opposite of the desired effect. And that's arrogance. If you strive for abundance so single-mindedly that you alienate those who are closer to you, you will be left holding an empty bag. Too bad. Misfortune results from isolation. So there's two things here. It's not what you can get. It's not the togetherness that gets something from the other person. It's working together in that tribe to get something for everyone, right? The theme this week is community, and I talked about those alignments in the astrology. So you put those changes in and you get fellowship. It's almost a pure yang. It's only one yin line in this I-Ching hexagram, but that's called fellowship. Weird. It's amazing how these things work like puzzle pieces together. When communal or tribal bonds unite a group of people, great success is possible, but such bonding only develops if personal interests are subordinate to virtuous human relations, like open communications and empathy. It's very Pisces. The broader perspective, the greater good that can be achieved. The greater the potential good, the more powerful the support behind it. This is just saying all the same things we've been talking about. Learn to respect the power of diversity, for a community's strength lies in the diverse skills and collective resources of its members. With a unified group solidly behind you, even difficult enterprises can be undertaken without a great risk. Ultimately, this is a solution. So where we go one, we go all. How about that? Now let's put it into the calculator. This is for those of you who are new. We use both the tropical and the sidereal, and a lot of experts, a lot of pronounced experts will ridicule that and say that that's not possible. And what we do is we differentiate between the clear influence of the tropical, that's an influence, and the sidereal is the solution. This is how you should behave, or indicators of ideas of how you should behave based on what we learned from the tropical as far as influence goes. So we take the sun and Jupiter that went exact, and it was a hyper Jupiter right here because it is Cazimi, and we can indicate that it's in hexagram 63. We just had 63 last week. if I remember correctly. And we had the Aquarian solution. So let's now, I think we had nostalgia was our line, and that was for a new moon. So now the Jupiter conjunction is put in 14 degrees, 58 minutes of Pisces. So memory, listen to this one. This one's really interesting to me. So same hexagram, but slightly different line. It says the detailed accounting of the achievement process whose information base can prepare a new order for the future. The pressure to explore the doubt in detail as a foundation for eventual formalizing. It's honoring the mental system that likes to limit you. What if a lot of those cognitive limits are there for you to assimilate into making your plan perfect? Now, let's look at the risk this week, a willingness to forget in the glow of victory with a possible price to be paid later, the pressure and risk to forget the details when the doubts have been answered. Now, work with me here. When you visualize being sort of relaxed and optimistic and sort of on the raft of life with the Jupiter and Sun together in Pisces, there could be a risk of just assuming things are going to be fine and there's no care or worry in the world. And so you forget in the glow of victory with a possible price to be paid later. In other words, don't let that happen to you. It doesn't mean be on edge while you're in your life raft relaxing, but at the same time, don't forget the past. It's absolutely paramount that you don't forget the past, because past will repeat into the future. All right. We want to learn everything we can about the past and the present so that we can have the best option for the future. Right. All right. It's time for the ultimate solution. So let's get our slide ready as we climb into the life raft, and it's sunshine. It's a Sun and Jupiter together in Pisces. They're together. It's a group of 4 life rafts. I guess it shouldn't be life raft. It's just a relaxing raft, little river raft, and it's not rapids. Hopefully it's not rapids this week and tumultuous. Hopefully it's just smooth and just relaxing. Shades of ease and optimism are indicated across the board. So the I-Ching member says abundance with full bloom, fortune on tribal unification. The community is blessed. The wise get wiser. The tribe gets tighter. It's a week of building momentum. All right, that's the influence. Now, how do we behave? That's the question, and that's what we're going to triangulate here, but cross the I-Ching. The second hexagram that we read was fellowship. Isolation brings misfortune. Be unified. Great success this week comes from tribal bonds. The broader the perspective, the greater the success. And then we have the rave mandala that says, never forget. Okay. And then it's not like holding resentment. It's not like that. It's learning from the past and committing to not creating the same mistakes in the future. It's a very Aquarian thing, by the way. But Aquarians love to be in the future. Remember, and they can tend to forget the past. They can be too detached, too aloof to remember the past. They're not good memory people. They're always in the future. So the biggest risk for this Aquarian solution is that you, A, refuse to go to the past, or because you don't want to be there or you don't remember it. So you got to spend a little extra time for us to recall past patterns. But that is one of the gifts the Aquarians have, is pattern looking, pattern identification, deep thinker, humanitarian, but a good observer. All right. So what does it all mean? The overwhelming overlap this week across influence and solution is tribe and community. But first, how about covering the hardest part of the solution? Never forget, says the rave. This is to prevent the age-old problem of repeating habitual patterns. Learn from thy mistakes. How many mistakes have we purposefully forgotten only to see them play out again? Recall all the patterns in your life and fix them this week. More importantly, for this time frame, take a mental snapshot of everything they did. Do you want this to repeat? Note how they did this, the mottos, the programming, the guilt tripping, etc. This is for your future. This is for your children's future and children's children's future. Don't create the same patterns that are current right now, because the current patterns, you can go back and look at history. History is repeating right now. So we want to break that cycle. Lastly, the I-Ching suggests tribal bonds, which is a direct overlap to the Aquarian solution. Great success this week definitely comes from collaboration, camaraderie, broader perspective, observation, independent and out-of-box thinking. Aquarian thinkers tend to be futurist and forward-thinking. So take a pause consistently this week and reflect. So specifically talking to you Aquarians and myself, when you're in that raft, just floating down the stream this week and relaxing, spend some time reflecting. For us, we want to pound out the future. We want to figure out the future, want to imagine what it's going to be like. Not that important this week. It's more important to not create the past in a bad way, unless it's a past that you liked and you want to repeat that. That's fine. But choosing which things you want to repeat and which ones you don't, that's an important task this week. So, in other words, it doesn't mean you can't be Aquarian. It just means take a few breaks and purposely go to the past and find especially the hazardous patterns so that you don't create those into the future. If you so choose, you can choose to paraphrase this or phrase this or affirm this for yourself. I master the past so that I can live in a fresh new future. All right, everyone, thank you for this tribe here. And you see how the comments from the past week just absolutely thread through everything that we talked about, and especially into this solution. It's amazing how you guys are also intuitives, and you're commenting from an old CIRF report and don't know or intuitively know that this is also the weaving into the next. So each week by week, these not just happenstance of these CIRF reports, they do fit in like lock and key, like puzzle pieces. It's really incredible to watch. And so thankful that a lot of you are getting benefit from them. All right, everybody, I enjoyed doing this CIRF report. I hope you enjoyed listening, and we will see you again next week. Cheers.